All right. I'm trying it again. It says my microphones are working. Whether or not they are, I don't know. I'll leave that up to you guys in the comments to tell me if they are or are not. But they say that they're working. Well, at least one of them is. One of them seems to be not picking up near as well. But hey, it's Sunday. Ain't got much else going on, so might as well get this audio figured out. Let's see if I can get a decent video out of this whatsoever. So basically what I am working on is this line right here. This is where all the chrome trim fastens onto the side of this car. And it takes up an area that is pretty darn big. It's actually gonna start there and go to there, and that is gonna be all stainless steel and polished aluminum is basically what it's gonna be. But the reason I'm paying so much attention to blocking down these lines is when you attach the trim back on to this car and you look down the trim, you don't want to look down and see this wavy motion or anything like that going down the side. So what you do is besides blocking the whole thing, but you pay a lot of attention to making sure that this is totally flat through here, and that way when you look down the side of it, it doesn't look like it's off or anything like that. So anyhow, but in the last video what I was saying, since I've been fighting all this audio issues, I still got a little bit to do right here. This is why it's important, just take your time and go down it and check it with all different types of lighting and just tell, so you can see if you have any shiny spots or anything like that. So it's a lot of times why you guys see me turning different lights on and different lights off and stuff like that, just so I can get different reflection value onto the painted surface and make sure that it's 100%. But as I was saying in the last video, Wednesday, I had some hernias fixed. And I tell you, that ain't pleasant. Ain't pleasant at all. But I've been coming down working in the mornings and coming back and working in the evenings, taking about 5 hours in between. Dang sure I lifted nothing. Yeah, that sucks. I do not want to do that again. Oh, that really slows you down. I realize how much you use your abdomen muscles, or those muscles that are related to where a hernia would be located, but holy crap. You use them a lot more than what you would think. Okay. Well, I think I want to do one more pass down that side. I'm not using anything super abrasive. This is just 800. What happens basically what happens, so when you spray your clear coat on here, around these holes that are in the side panel, the clear is gonna kind of create a little bit of a raised spot because it's obviously going to go around the hole a little bit, and that's the reason why we want to get that so nice and flat through there. It's because you do get that distortion from any mounting holes that are in the side panel. It's just kind of part of it. But and I asked him if the audio was any better now, but it doesn't seem that there's anyone on to ask. And I guess the chat isn't working very well either. See how that looks now. Maybe. Sorry, didn't mean to shake the camera so bad, but anyways, as you look down the side of the car when I got it all nice and wetted down, you can see how straight that the body is on it. And a lot of that happens in your wet sanding or dry sanding. I was like talking to someone the other day about it, and a lot of guys like to dry sand. I've tried it, just kind of, I don't know. I kind of like a wet sand because it turns everything to a paste. It falls on the floor and I can mop it up. And I don't have to worry about the dust. Okay, how's that looking? Just got attacked by a moth. Boy, that looks nice. So I was talking about the other night the different blocks that I use for blocking out a car. So, as you can see, that's 800 grit wet sanding paper, and then I'm using a flexible sanding block, okay? And I like a flexible because you can bend it around a shape like that. And then I'm using just a good old standard hard block on there, all right? And that's not gonna flex, right? And then probably my most favorite block of all is this DuraBlock, and you can see I've cut it down in length. But the reason I like this is because you can pretty much fit it anywhere on the panel and get it to lay flat. All right, let's wipe this off. Before I shoot this next week, and it will be next week, at this surgery, like, I can't put on a paint mask for a few days, because I still gotta breathe into that stupid little thing with the bubble in it. And we definitely don't want to get pneumonia. So, but when I do go to shoot this, being as though I've color sanded this all now in a 800, what I'll do is I'm lastly gonna go over this one time with 600 before I get ready to spray it. And then I'll mask it and we'll flow coat the side of it. Boy, That is looking good. Yeah, that is looking really good. I'm very happy with that. Anywho, so what'd you guys all do with your weekends? Anything exciting? But it looks nice. All right. So I think the last little area I have to do is going to be just the outside surface of the rocker here. So I'm going to grab some different blocks. Let's get that knocked down. Try that. Yeah. Ooh, clean the lens. There we go. That's a little better. All right. Yeah, getting up and down ain't the easiest thing in the world right now. Whew. Freaking smart. Anyways, yeah, knock out this bottom rocker, and just like the side panel, all we're really looking to do at this point, because we're doing the flow coat, right? We're not re-clear coating the whole car again, is we're gonna get this outside surface that is visible to the public knocked down and ready to go. And then when I get ready to spray this, this will all be done in jamming foam. And jamming, and I'm gonna mask it as well, but the jamming foam is gonna keep any of the clear coat overspray going to the inside, clouding up our door jamb. Since that's all painted and it's really nice, you don't have to go doing it again. But also because when I do the flow coat on here, the door is going to be on the car, not off of the car. So it'll all be getting done together. We want to do that so that we have even clear coat the entire way down the car. So that's why it's important when you're, you know, even when you're painting like this, to where you're doing, you know, a show quality paint finish, right? You know, spend a lot of time, you know, color sanding them up and down, you know, completely flat factory cars. But when you're doing it, it's really important to keep track of the coats of paint that you're putting on, and you want to make sure that you do it evenly. You know, even if you do the car in pieces or what have you, you want to make sure that you've got your settings and everything written down, temperatures, air pressures, spray out test cards. Definitely spray out test cards. Write all your information on the back of them. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about. Hold on. By the way, how's the audio sound now? Any better? God, I hope it's better. Oh, son of a... Oh, that sucks. Anywho, that's a jamming foam that's going to get used inside the door jambs. If you haven't seen this stuff before, I showed it to you guys the last time, but peel a piece off and I'll show you. So jamming foam is kind of an oval piece of foam. Halfway on the back side it's got adhesive, right? And it's just a really light contact adhesive. But basically what will happen is once the door is on here, foam will be laid in like so. The door will be closed and that edge will be sealed off from the clear coat that I'm going to be applying. And then when you're done, just go in and take all the jamming foam out. If you got a little overspray, you can take a little bit of reducer and clean that off of there. I like to use a reducer and a mixture of glass cleaner. It's just not quite as harsh. But let me pull out a paint card or a test card so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. I'll explain this card to you if you've never seen these before. I feel like you've been kicked like right square in the junk. Okay, so this is a spray out test card, and you're gonna notice it's got 4 different colors. You got white, light gray, a darker gray, and then basically you have a charcoal or a very dark gray. It's not quite black. And what these are for is you basically tape these to a paint stick, and when you're ready to spray, you set up your gun and everything else. You record all of your data on the back. Every single bit of the data you put on the back. You then spray your test card with typically 3 coats. And after 3 coats, you take it out in the sun and you can look at it. And what you want to look for is if you can see any color difference underneath to tell you if 3 coats is going to be enough to give you the coverage that you want. If it is, then your test card's good. You got all your info. You save that, give it to your customer, save it for yourself, put it in your own files, either way. But it'll basically have everything on here for you. So you're gonna have a gun type, you're gonna have what air cap is on there, what fluid cap, what your reduction was, what your air pressure was, the date, the formula, the make, model, the year, the PPG brand code. Just so happens I am spraying this car in PPG. The color code itself, which this one is called, what the heck is it called? Turquoise Frost. Number of coats applied, base coat, control coat, clear coat, comments, tint adjustments, but that's the importance of a color match to vehicle spray out card, and why these things are so handy to have. And they're not expensive. Like, you can get a pack of these for like 20 bucks from your local paint job or store. By the way, that's not sponsored. Like, not really trying to sponsor PPG. They don't pay my bills. In fact, I pay their bills quite often. I wish they wouldn't mind paying my bills, but they do not. Oh. Anyways, finish up this rocker. So, again, just worried about doing the visible surface. We're not even going to the bottom. We've already painted the bottom of this car really extensively, all the way to the pinch welds underneath. Matter of fact, if you watch back at the old videos, you'll see that we actually went to the back side of the pinch welds. Like, one of my absolute pet peeves, if you guys haven't picked up on it yet, is wheel wells not being painted and not being painted correctly and then not painting the car all the way underneath. Like, that's what your customer paid for. Paint the car all the way through. There's nothing worse than picking up a classic car and you see colors underneath where, or primer spots where it's never been done. It's just, I don't know. To me, it seems like it's low quality, but then again, until you know what somebody paid for what, it's really hard to determine whether they got a good job or a bad job. It's kind of a tough judgment call, you know? And you do hear a lot of criticisms about body work and, you know, and even mechanical work, you know, especially in today's day and age with social media. But I mean, unless you're really present for the conversation with between the customer and the shop, it's hard to make any real judgment. And furthermore, like, you need to see what you started with and you need to see what you ended with. So it's really hard to say, but even for myself, it's just a personal pride thing. Like, one is, I guess at this point in my life, I don't do cheap work anymore. Like, that's just how it is. Like, dude, there's enough guys out there doing cheap ass work that are trying to get into this field, you know, and they think discounting is the way to do it. If you're confident in what you're doing and you know that you know what you're doing and you can turn out a good product, I don't think there's any reason whatsoever to discount in this line of business anymore. Again, unless, you know, you're just getting into it and, you know, you may be a little green or what have you, and that may be okay as long as your customer is well aware of it. And he knows what he's getting. But, you know, I've seen a lot of guys over the years try and get into this business, and first thing they do is start discounting to try and get something in through the door. I can assure you, it's the fastest way I know to be out of business real quick. And that's just 30 plus years in this business of experience telling you. But on the flip side of it, this is probably it. And I'm sure it's geographically driven as well. I know it's geographically driven as well. So, as a lot of you know that have been tuning in for a long time, I used to live in Las Vegas. I lived there for 27 years. And although there are hot rod shops in Las Vegas, I'll tell you, I've probably seen the equivalent of every one of them come and go out of that town, and they don't last very long. There's a couple staples there that do pretty good, but they just can't make it there. It's a different part of the world. It's a different income level. I don't know. People in Vegas seem to always want, you know, a discount on custom auto body and hot rod work and stuff like that. And I don't know if those businesses would pop up, they'd be gone in about 6 months, typically. Now, there are some staples that have stayed there. There are some decent shops, but they stay decent because, one is they know what they're doing, two is they don't discount. And having that longevity in the field, you know, just getting around crap with a hernia, like a freaking invalid. Jesus. that's doing pretty good. And I am using that soft block again, so good way to tell that you've got a really good seal, you know, or that you've wet sanded it to a flat surface, is that when you put your block on it, you can just stick it right to the side of the vehicle. You can even hear it. It creates a suction, and it's because the paint is completely flat. If it's not flat, your block will fall off. May take it a minute or two, but you can tell. But here, I'll just see if I can show you. But like, I can take this block and try and stick it there, but you can see it's already starting to slide. It just, you know. All right, that's not the best example in the world. Never mind. Anywho. Anyways, once I'm done wet sanding, just like all the other areas, grab microfiber, wipe it all down. All that white stuff that you've created, that milky material from wet sanding, that is clear coat. You don't want to leave it on the side of the car. It does have the potential to, especially because it's new paint, it does have the potential, especially in this door jamb where it's not getting repainted again. If I was to leave it there, it's just like a hard water spot on fresh paint. If you're to leave it there, there's a good chance it's staying there. Especially on fresh paint material. Because what's happening is, while your paint is drying, and paint does take a while to dry. Like, you're gonna see 2 weeks before you get a full cure through and through on a paint job. But I always tell people, a great rule of thumb is, if you can walk in the garage and you can still smell the paint, it's because your car is still drying, and it's drying through a process that's called outgassing, okay? And what outgassing is basically the paint material is drying from the inside out chemically, and when it's doing it, it is releasing the gas from that chemical reaction that's taking place, and it's letting it out of the paint surface. When you put water on that, if that gas gets trapped underneath there, it can burn a ring and actually leave a perfect impression of a water drop into your paint material, which is typically not going to come out. Kind of depends on the color, but as you can imagine, something a lot darker is definitely a lot more susceptible to getting a burn ring if you were to leave that water on there. So get you some good microfibers. If you didn't catch it in the last video, my very favorite microfibers are the Kirklands. Get these off of Amazon. They're like 25 bucks. There's 36 of them to a pack, and they're heavy duty enough that you can throw them in the washer and then use them on something else. And that's typically what I'll do, is I'll use them in the shop, and I'll use them one time in the shop, but after that they go home and they get used as cleaning rags and stuff like that. I don't ever reuse a used microfiber on a freshly painted car. So anywho, yeah, well, I just thought I'd give this audio a try again and see if I got it figured out. It seems like I kind of got it figured out, but it's probably getting to be about 9:30 tonight, so I'm gonna call it a day. This hernia ain't feeling real freaking hot this afternoon or this evening. So anyways, thanks for tuning in. Y'all have yourself a good night. Enjoy the holiday tomorrow, and we will catch you next time.